Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to this week's news roundup. Now, before I get into it, yes, it has been a while since the last upload, 12 days in fact. However, as I explained in a community post or a couple of community posts, I've not been well over the last week or so, and in the end that resulted in me totally losing my voice. Not just a little bit, completely, which was a blessing for my partner, I can assure you, but as I'm sure most of you will understand, if I've got no voice, I can't record audio. But basically, I just wanted to apologise for the gap between videos, but there wasn't really anything I could do about it. And also say thank you to everyone for your get well soon messages. They really do mean a hell of a lot. I'm still not 100%, but I'm desperate to get back to making content because it's driving me mad not doing this. But I will say, if there are any weird noises in this video or I sound raspier than usual, then apologies in advance. Like I say, not a lot I can do about it at the moment. Enough of that though, let's get started, and McLaren boss Zak Brown has warned that Formula 1 is in a fragile state due to the coronavirus pandemic, and that it risks losing as many as 4 teams if the sport doesn't look to lower the cost cap that is set to be introduced next year. Now, although the 2021 technical regulation changes have been pushed back to 2022, and could yet actually be pushed back even further to 2023, the $175 million cost cap is still scheduled to come into force next year. However, due to the current situation across the world, the 2020 season still looks a long way off being able to start, if it can at all. And so, as you'd expect, the teams and indeed the sport are losing out on crucial income. And Brown believes that unless the $175 million cost cap figure isn't reduced dramatically, teams could begin to fall off the grid. Could I see 2 teams disappearing? Yeah. In fact, I could see 4 teams disappearing if this isn't handled the right way. And then, given the economic and health crisis we're in right now, to think there would be people lined up to take over those teams like there has historically been, I don't think the timing could be worse from that standpoint. On that cost cap, by the way, according to Brown, all teams were in agreement that figure should be dropped to $150 million, and a majority of teams, including in his words one of the big teams, want it to fall even further. I've seen some claims of some of the smaller teams wanting it around $100 million. But in his interview with the BBC, Brown went on to add, "If we don't make an aggressive enough budget cap and some people feel they have to top up this year and have no chance of getting it back, then they ask themselves, why are they in it? I don't think anyone competes in F1 just to make up the numbers." But which teams could be at risk of falling off the grid should the cost cap not be reduced far enough? Well, you can let me know who you would fear for in the comment section down below, but I don't think it would come as too much of a surprise if I were to say that I'd be concerned for the future of Williams as well as Haas, who are already evaluating their position on the grid. Alfa Romeo as well, who despite the investment and the fancy name are essentially still the Sauber team. And yeah, despite being officially confirmed last week that Racing Point will be rebranded as Aston Martin from next season, I don't even think they are totally secure despite Lawrence Stroll's cash backing. Although you could very easily argue that they are the best place to survive of the 4 teams that I've mentioned, but let me know what you think. So Zak Brown is concerned that Formula 1 could lose teams, but Christian Horner is convinced that the sport will come out the other side of the current crisis. There has been a lot of talk lately, hasn't there, about whether or not Formula 1 would be able to survive not racing for a full year, something that is very much still a possibility given the global situation. But although he echoed Brown's concerns that we could lose teams, Horner is confident F1 itself will survive. He was also talking in an interview with the BBC where he said, "F1 is a very strong business and it's got enormous heritage. F1 will survive this. Whether all the teams survive this is another matter. The world is a different place at the moment. Of course, revenue is hit very hard. We don't know how hard it will hit F1 yet. All the teams have been reacting responsibly and collectively. Obviously, some teams are more exposed than others, particularly the small ones, and it's important that we try our best to protect the F1 community as best we can." The Red Bull boss also admitted in the same interview that the factory shutdown teams are currently serving could extend into May, stating that he believes it is the only fair way to deal with the current situation. So that and the cost cap as well are topics that are likely to crop up in a meeting being held today between F1 and all 10 teams as they look at ways to try to cut costs further and help the teams that need it. I am recording this before we've had any news of any outcome from that meeting, but if we hear anything worthwhile, I guess, later today, I'll pop a link to an article in the YouTube community section, so keep an eye out there. Moving on, and Silverstone's managing director Stuart Pringle, fantastic name by the way, once you pop you just can't stop, anyway, has said that the circuit would be open to hosting more than one race if Formula 1 needed it to do so in order to, I suppose, make up the number of races required to hit Chase Carey's ambitious target of 15 to 18 races. Can't see that happening, but that's maybe a discussion for another day. Anyway, he also stated that the circuit is willing to help F1 in whatever way it could, including the idea of running races on a reversed layout. Speaking to Sky Sports News, Pringle said, All I've done is say to Formula One, we are willing to work with them in any way that they think is in the best interest of the championship. The majority of the teams are within a stone's throw of the circuit, so operationally, it would be pretty straightforward. We've got fixed infrastructure, the staff could go home to their own beds in an evening for the large part. If that's how we can help, then I'm very pleased. I'd be delighted to do that. But what about the idea of running a race on a reverse layout? Well, Pringle doesn't seem to think it's such a crazy idea, and although there will be challenges, he seems to think it is more than doable. It's not such a silly thought. We are not licensed to run the other way, but these are extraordinary times, and I guess that extraordinary decisions are being made. Nothing is off the table, but equally, let's see what the next 4 weeks look like. I'm sure some of you will have already given it a go on the official F1 game, but what would a reverse lap of Silverstone look like? Don't worry, I've not done it. But pinned in the comment section is a link to a video that the race did, which shows what it would look like and some of the changes the circuit organisers would have to make in order to make it a safe and viable option. If you are interested, it is well worth a watch. Link down below. So Silverstone, fancy more than one race, but Mark Webber isn't convinced that the British Grand Prix will go ahead as planned in July, and I'm pretty sure he's not alone on that one. Now, at time of recording, the season is still officially scheduled to start in Canada in June, although I think we can all agree that is probably not going to happen. And British Grand Prix organisers are set to take a decision at the end of April on whether or not their race on July 19th will go ahead as planned. However, Webber, of course former British Grand Prix winner, thinks that running a race in July is optimistic. It's a ginormous headache because Formula One is a fast-moving business. It's a global sport, freight is an issue, and logistically, it's one of the most challenging sports. They are looking at around July, but I still think that is very, very optimistic. Webber also spoke about the idea of 2-day race weekends, an idea put forward by Ross Brawn last month, as a way of being able to squeeze as many races as possible into the remainder of 2020, and the Aussie seems to think it's a good idea. Formula One, with the travelling circus and even TV, which requires huge production teams, faces a big challenge. They are looking at condensing the weekends to 2 days from 3 days, and I think that's a great idea to help get some events in without rushing them through. And you know what? I totally agree with him. It's just an idea, but teams and drivers could arrive on a Friday. If they have to do press conferences, do them before practice on Saturday. Then you could have just one 90-minute practice session on Saturday morning, qualifying in the afternoon, and then you'd have the race as normal on Sunday, and then on to the next one. I really do think that would work very, very well. Let's wait and see though. First of all, we've got to wait and see if we get any racing at all this year. But secondly, can Liberty get the teams on board for a schedule like that? It's going to be interesting to see what calendar and what schedule they come up with should F1 get going. Right, something new for these videos then. There is so much doom and gloom around F1, well, actually the world at the moment, understandably of course. So I wanted to add a very quick section to the end of these videos that I'm going to call Good News. Very original. Basically, 3 super quick stories that are, well, good news and or a little bit more light-hearted. So firstly, ex-McLaren boss Ron Dennis has set up a new initiative to help support the UK's frontline health workers. The scheme, which is called SaluteTheNHS.org, aims to provide meals to the NHS over the course of the next 3 months. Fantastic initiative, and Dennis and his family have also donated £1 million to the scheme. Ron said that this is a time when all of us, individuals and businesses alike, need to stand up and be counted in the effort to combat COVID-19, and went on to add, "We have called this SaluteTheNHS.org because I think we are all in awe of the work they are doing to save lives." Absolutely, Ron. Couldn't agree more. And a huge shout out as well to all of the F1 teams, and that's those in the UK and those abroad who are helping to fight the virus in whatever way they can. It is great to see teams pulling together and doing all they can to help. Charles Leclerc cruised to victory last night in Formula One's virtual Vietnam Grand Prix held around Albert Park, Australia on the official F1 game. Now that's obviously because the official F1 2019 game doesn't feature the Hanoi circuit, but it made me laugh anyway. What can I say? I'm easily pleased. Anyway, Leclerc started on pole after Christian Lundgaard was dropped 5 places on the grid, and Charles never really looked back as he took his first win in his first virtual Grand Prix appearance. Lundgaard came home in second place with George Russell rounding off the podium, and Stoff, by the way, finished a sensational, brilliant, phenomenal, incredible 6th place for Mercedes. God, he's bloody good. And just on the virtual stuff, by the way, I know it's not the same as having the real Formula One, but we can't have that at the moment, and it's just nice to have something in its place. That and the classic Grand Prix they're showing at the weekend, so thank you F1. It's certainly better than the nothing that was the alternative. And finally, Lando Norris shaved his head, sort of. Lando took part in a charity stream a couple of Saturdays ago and apparently said that he would shave his hair off if he raised more than $10,000. Incredibly, he actually went on to raise more than $12,000, and so over the weekend he took to Twitch again to keep his side of the bargain. Now, call me pedantic, and this is coming from a bitter old bald man, but he didn't shave his head. He ain't bald. He gave himself a haircut. This is bald. This is not. However, the most important thing is that he raised some great money for charity and people had some fun along the way as well, so absolutely fair play to him. That is it though for this video, but don't forget you can, as always, let me know your thoughts on any of the stories featured today down in the comment section, and I will be back soon with more content as ever. I won't leave it to 12 days this time, I promise. And hopefully by the next video I'll sound a little bit better. But anyway, in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye bye.